Like a whole 10 minutes.
Go ahead, Sean.
All right, I'll especially for people at other offices not in Durango. My name is Sean Mclean. I'm the media director, and I've been with the Durango office here for 8 years. And I'm also now super excited to be a part of Distinctive's amazing marketing team. So I'm sure if you don't already know me, you'll be seeing more of me in the future, and I look forward to it. As Heather mentioned before, we're going to hold all questions to the end. So make sure you write them down so you don't forget, and then we're going to be happy to address those questions at the tail end of this training. The intentions and our goals of this training are essentially we want to help you get better lead conversion and give you the tools and knowledge in order to work those leads and be as successful as possible at converting them. Not all leads are come from a lot of different places, and they're all somewhat different, and they often require a different plan in order to convert that lead. So knowing what leads are being converted and where they're coming from, you managing those leads, it also helps us understand better how to spend our advertising money to generate more leads for you. The other aspect of this that we'll discuss is just a willingness to participate. We certainly don't, if you're not interested, for instance, in doing all the things that you need to do to work like a passive lead, for instance, we certainly would love to give that to somebody who does. And so that's the willingness to participate part. And then obviously we're going to do everything we can to support you and give you the knowledge in order to help you do that with the tools that we have available.
Sean, I'm going to jump in and just say it's very much like we will not let you do floor training or anything else until you're really trained to do, or you can't do floor training. You can't do floor until you're trained. We want to be the most professional office in town, and the kind of money that we spent on generating each lead. I know that when I came back to Coldwell Banker, it was kind of a hot mess with leads going to people, and they said, well, oh, I didn't bother following up with that person. And they would say, I want to list my house. And there'd be nobody had followed up with them. And it was a $700,000 listing that had come up just after the person wasn't followed up with. So there's good reasons for us to do what like we are.
Thank you, Heather. Exactly. This is just an overview of what we're going to be going over in this presentation. Our intentions, company policy, and just what our expectations are from a management perspective. How the lead system works with an explanation of all the different lead types. Difference between hot leads, warm leads, cool leads, cold leads, and dead leads. Zap leads. A lot of people, that's one of the more common questions is what is a Zap lead and passive registration lead, and what is that? What do I do with it? So we'll talk about that. We'll also discuss why agents with more listings get more leads. So we'll go over that. And what to do if you think you got a bogus lead. And then the fun stuff, based on the tools that IQ Office has available, follow-ups and action plans, and how to really utilize the CRM to your benefit. And then how to best manage passive leads. All right, next slide. All brokers accepting leads have 15 minutes to accept it. And if you don't accept it, it's going to get passed on to the next person in rotation, next agent in rotation. If the lead is generated on your listing, like a request for information on a website, that will be auto-assigned to you first, but you still do need to accept that lead within that 15-minute time frame, or it will be passed off to somebody else. So you do get priority on the lead. It won't go to round robin, but you do need to make sure you accept it. The reason for that is that we want to make sure that everybody, that a lead is getting contacted sooner than later. The chance of converting a lead goes down drastically if a lead's not contacted right away or within a short period of time. Also, with Distinctive, the office is only requiring you to stay compliant and not get halted to do 2 basic follow-ups in the system, and those will pop into your to-do panel on your dashboard. And all you have to do is click the checkbox and say how you followed up with the lead. And there's only 2 of them, one after 3 days and one after 14 days. And that's it. If you ever feel like you're cleared out and everything's good, but you're still halted, just make sure you come and see us, especially go to your agent concierge first. All right, next slide. Oh, you passed through one. If you could go back one. All right.
Wait, hold on. Did we? Oh yeah, we did this. Okay,
we did it right. Going on to CRM. It's a really bad statistic. National Association of Realtors every year interviews and does a poll on about 100 to 150,000 buyers and sellers that use a realtor annually. And even though over 70% on average of those buyers and sellers are super satisfied with their experience with a realtor, only 28% of those realtors get that repeat business. The main reason why is because agents especially, aren't always good at following up with people and staying in touch with people. That's why, we say CRM required, but I'm putting an emphasis on that. I'm highly, highly recommending that it is an extremely beneficial, CRM is an extremely beneficial aspect of your business, because it will remind you, not only does it have drip marketing and marketing features that will just happen automatically for you, but at the very basic level, it will remind you to stay in touch with people. The quick story that I always tell is that I saw a friend at a wedding. When I went back to Portland, I told him what I was doing in real estate. He was like, "Oh, can you recommend somebody to me in Portland, a realtor? I want to sell my townhouse and buy a place with more dirt." And I referred him to a very close family friend who's a rockstar real estate agent who got 2 deals out of that, as well as a future client. And he was super satisfied, but I asked him, "Why didn't you use the realtor you bought the townhouse with?" And he said, "Oh, well, that was 10 years ago, and they never even talked to me after that transaction." So if that initial realtor would have stayed in touch, utilizing things like a CRM, they would have retained that business. So that's the important part about a CRM, and we're here to help you and support you and train you to show you the tools of why CRM is amazing, and even just with follow-ups. So make sure to reach out to us if you're struggling with it or if you're looking for advice. But part of this training will be about that. All right, next slide. So where do leads come from? ColdwellBanker.com, ColdwellBankerLuxury.com. There are a huge array of third-party real estate websites. Obviously, the main players, Zillow, Trulia, and Realtor. And Zillow is the biggest player with that, so we get a lot of leads that do come from Zillow. And it's when they're on the website, they find a listing, they request more information. And then you also have your brokerage websites. And especially if you're doing a lot of marketing, generating traffic to your brokerage website, it could be something like "What's my home worth?" and you're posting that to social media. Those are obviously going to generate leads. And if you generate a lead on your website, that lead is yours. It won't go into rotation or anything like that. And so there's a benefit to driving traffic to your personal brokerage website.
And just to jump in, that's what I hear most from new agents is, "You said I was signed up for leads and I'm just not getting any leads." So generally speaking, unless an agent is out on vacation, they're going to get their own listing lead. They just have to take it within 15 minutes. And you're getting the leftovers, which would be maybe someone doesn't happen to pick up, but almost always it's because someone called on a competitor's listing, like a Sotheby's listing, or they just happen to be on our website and they're asking about it. Those are the ones that go into the rotation. So it's a lot fewer than what you would get otherwise.
Thank you, Heather. And Zap is, before we go to the next slide, we'll have a more robust explanation of what Zap is, but essentially Zap is ColdwellBanker.com, and we'll have an explanation later on. We do track, this is I certainly could update this graph, but this was from 2018. The brokerage in Durango was paying for Zillow leads at the time, and that's why Zillow was really high on there. But one of the things that's happened since 2018 is that Coldwell Banker teamed up with Facebook, and you've all probably heard about social ad engine and artificial intelligence that Facebook specifically built out for companies like Coldwell Banker to better target ads that are running on Facebook to clientele that are very much possibilities. That has absolutely exponentially increased the amount of Zap CD passive registration leads that we're getting into the system now.
So in case you were watching this from a different office, so this is Sean and me, Heather, are in the Durango, Mancos, Silverton, and Vicedo offices. These were just what we brought in our local offices. This has nothing to do with the whole of Distinctive.
Correct. Thank you, Heather, for that clarification. And the other thing that we'll talk a little bit more about, and I think it's on the next slide, but 63% of all online leads went to the listing agent. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Heather. Yeah, an important note about Zap Leads. You don't need to log into Zap through CB Desk to manage those leads. If you have a Zap lead, they're automatically placed into your leads into IQ Office. And if you're still getting notifications from Zap, you just need to go into Zap and turn your notifications off. So that's just a quick note there.
And then I wanted to jump in and say that as a new agent, you also are going to be learning on CB Desk. And at this point, as far as I know, when you're on the CB Desk classes, so this would be Coldwell Banker, New Jersey's classes, they have List to Last, they have AMP. They encourage you to use Zap as a platform, unless this has changed in the last 6 months. That's what they were still encouraging you to do. Just know that we have IQ, so you don't have to go and learn a different system. You don't have to log in there. We have way cooler tools within IQ than you ever would have had with Zap.
Thank you for that clarification. So this is definitely the most common question I've gotten. One of our brokers here at the Durango office came to me several years ago, and I provide this example on the slide, Aaron Shank, and he's like, Sean, I just got a Zap CD passive registration lead. What is that, and what do I do with it? And I said, well, essentially, this is what it is. It is a person that has a login on coldwellbanker.com, and all they did was type in our zip code, and that generates a lead immediately. They didn't ask to be or request to be contacted by anybody or an agent, and that's why we call it passive. It just means that Coldwell Banker is sending lead over to us because they are actively on coldwellbanker.com looking at real estate in our area. The passive aspect of it, so then Aaron asked me, what do I do with that lead? And I said, well, they're passive, they might not want to be contacted. So what you do, one rule of thumb from my Think Ninja or one of the other sales training programs is you contact them once a day for 7 days, and then once a week for 7 weeks, and then maybe you put them on your quarterly newsletter after that. But either way, you incubate them, and we're going to be using that word more in this training. You want to make sure that you keep touching them. Not all leads that come in are silver platter, and they're just going to contact you right away, and then before you know it, you're under contract on something. And in Aaron's case, it was a perfect example. Is Aaron did exactly that. He incubated the lead and put him on a drip for 18 months. They didn't reply. They never said anything. And out of the blue, they called him up and they said, "Thank you so much for staying in touch with us, even though we never talked to you. We're going to be in Durango next week." And they ended up buying a $600,000 or $550,000 house. So if Aaron wouldn't have incubated that lead and stayed in touch with that lead, he never would have, converted that lead. And so that's what a Zap passive registration lead is.
Okay, so is this where I was going to jump in, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. When you get more listings, you get more leads, like we've been saying. Okay, so it's automatically routed to you if you're the listing agent. On floor, every lead we've received on floor came from listings. Yes, because mostly they're not calling you to say, I want more information about Durango. I'm thinking about moving there. Mostly it's because they noticed we have a lot of listings. So the only ones that weren't were walk-ins. And the last time we checked, 64% of our floor calls came from listings. In Durango, we have a really good floor, and we mark down every single person that calls or walks in so that we have stats like how good is floor, what times are better on floor, those kind of things. But that's the statistic we have for our floor, how many were related to our listings.
May I add something to that, Heather, really quick? The online portion of why you get more leads if you have more listings is just the gravity of having those leads out there being published, and that you're going to be auto-assigned those leads as long as you just accept them within 15 minutes. So, you know, the more leads you have, the more that you're going to potentially get leads off the internet.
Makes sense. So an action plan in IQ Office, an action plan, a series of steps you will take to contact a lead over a certain period of time. They might go from cold to hot, which means like they're not interested in real estate, and all of a sudden they want to buy something this weekend, which is going to change what kind of action plan you want to do, what kind of implementation you want to do with that person. Our local office has, so Durango, Mancos, Silverton, we have created 2 action plans before we were part of Distinctive. If you want training on those, I'm going to go into a little bit about what they are. I can do that at a different time. Today's not the day, but you can create yours too. Just make sure if you're signing up a client or a potential client for an online action plan, Distinctive has a ton of them in there. Make sure you know what it says before you send it to it. Like IQ has a couple that were some canned kind of presentations that are in there, not presentations, but action plans, but they're for specific intent, like one that says it's for buyers, but it's really meant for someone that you sat down with in the office and they said, oh, Heather, I would love to work with you. So the action plan all sounds like you actually met them. So don't be sending something that's not exactly pertinent to what this person is. Like maybe you've never met them and they're just a cold lead that came in a passive registration. So here's some actions you might want to include when you're following up with leads. Just a welcome email. Thank you for searching on our website, setting them up on a property watch. That's fun to do in IQ. We have phone calls if they provided their phone, checking in on them to see if their plans have changed, implementing them on a drip marketing plan. That could be like the quarterly newsletter when it comes out, or we were doing the what's the one called Revitalize, or sending sales comps to a seller if you know they live around here, trying to send them some comps that are new on the market that are near them, any of those things. So different states of a buyer lead. To understand my background, so I'm the managing director in Durango, Mancos, Silverton, and I've been here for almost 20 years, but not as a manager. I was a salesperson, and then I was stolen away to work at a resort office for a couple of years. And when I was a manager up there, I was dealing with big money, resort money, where you would spend a few $1,000s on one email, and it would go out with a push of a button after we had spent like weeks preparing. It was an email that went out to 50,000 people that were chosen for their income and where they live, like targeted zip codes, that they had a propensity to ski, that they had a propensity to like the outside, and that they were already looking for second homes. So this is like big money, resort money. So when I would push go, it was like, okay, you know, Monday morning, we're going to press go and we're going to have all these calls. You would literally on a floor shift, which sometimes was me on floor, you'd get 60 people that would call you or email you and say, I'm interested, like, tell me more. So you had to be able to keep people apart. Okay, who was that called and said they were interested in a certain subdivision if it ever came up to call them? Like, oh, they wanted a 2-bedroom or they wanted this. So you have to have a way of just keeping track of people. So first off, in the different states of a buyer lead, this is kind of what I took from, I was trained on Boomtown. Now I'm on IQ. Hot is like, and I just kind of put these on paper. You can consider things whatever you want. But for hot for me would be, they're ready to buy now. And you always want to assume that when you get a lead, they're hot, right? That's the assumption, is that don't be waiting to get in touch with someone. They might be coming tomorrow with some money and they want to spend it now. So always assume they're ready to go, and then until you learn otherwise. So let's say hot, I want to contact this person a whole bunch of times, but then maybe they didn't respond. And so then you just you don't want to be a pest. So you kind of cool off a little bit and then you just incubate them. You just consider them warm. So unless the person reaches out to you and said, I'm absolutely not interested for a year or two because I have to sell my house, that's when you start saying, okay, it's been 6 months. They're probably not going to buy right now. So then you still are incubating the person, but there's just different stages. Does that make sense? So dead, we've always considered if you're really following up with somebody on regular emails to them and it's been 2 years that have gone by, they're probably dead. But there's no reason not to keep following up with somebody if it's only going to take assigning them to a campaign that you already have going to a couple hundred people. So we feel here in Durango, I don't know if Distinctive has a different policy, but that you must be willing to actively work a lead for at least through the cool phase, that 12-month period, or else you're not going to be eligible for office leads. Am I or Sean, do I go into your IQ and check if you're following up with people? No, I don't do that, not unless I really thought there was a problem. But we don't want you to just follow up a couple of times. Leads don't come to us anymore where they say, I'm raising my hand, I'm ready to buy. Most of the time, that's just when you're lucky, right? Most of them are passive registration. They're not really giving you a lot of information, and you just got to keep incubating them. So if you're not willing to go that 12 months of sending them emails and you just go and throw it out after a couple of weeks, we don't want you to be eligible for buyer leads. So Sean went through this before. But this is basically, so first you have their lead states, right? So like, are they ready to buy a home? But then there's different kinds of leads that come in. You have active ones. Those are the ones that are communicating. So IQ has all of these coded. So we know, and you can tell by just looking at the email, they're asking for, can you give me information on this listing? Oh, okay. I know they're probably interested in this, or they're requesting a showing. We get those frequently. Direct agent contact form. Hey, Lindsay, like, oh, you didn't show that in this training, but Lindsay Lubrant just happened to get a direct agent contact. It said, we've been referred to you from someone. Could you give us a call? We're interested in single family condo up your way. So that was a direct agent contact, and you can do that. That's coded in IQ too. A phone call. Obviously, if somebody calls about a listing on floor, that's an active lead or a sign call, right? They're ready to go, or at least you're communicating with them. Passive lead means you get their name, which might not even be their real name. They could put Mickey Mouse or something like that sometimes. And then they also could not be meaning to email you. They are emailing you only because, let's say on the website, after 3 times they're looking at a listing, it automatically makes them register. So they have to input their email, if not their phone number. Those kind of things are like, I didn't mean for you to get back to me. I just wanted to look on your website. So that's kind of a passive registration, or what's my home worth? They're not knowing you're going to like call them. They just think you're going to shoot them some information. That's the button they pressed. And then you have bogus. So Sean, you jump in. You talk about Humam.
Yeah, this was an actual lead that did come in at one point, and that's why I used it as an example. And of course, I got a call from all 5 agents being like, oh, this is terrible. And so we knocked them back up on top of the lead rotation, and it was just spam. And so we know that those do happen as well. And certainly if that ends up being the case, and you need us to get rid of that lead, just let us know so we can just double check, and then we'll definitely confirm that it's a bogus lead and get rid of it.
Yeah, and so your first point of contact, if you're Durango Bancas Silverton, would be Carrie in our office, or I know Lisa in the Vail office. Or was Lisa in Vail, or was she in the Montrose? She's in Montrose. So usually it's the AC that's doing the lead, but just whoever in your office is the lead person, right? Is that correct, Sean?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, we go through the lead groups and stages. So you got hot, warm, cold, cold. So this is kind of what you're thinking. You don't have to like go memorize these. This is just something I made up about how you sort of separate the time frame, right? So hot lead is they literally are coming to town tomorrow, and that happens on floor, and you got to drop everything you're doing to help them. Warm is just, hey, can I get some information? Oh, hey, I heard about you. I'd like to kind of figure out what the market's doing up there. And then cool, or just, that's the passive registration. And cold would be, I was just looking because my sister was thinking about moving here when she retires. That's going to be years from now. Okay. You want me to, so I can put this on the screen. Are you ready, Sean?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you want to do your IQ?
sure. I will share my screen. Let me get that up. Uno momento. Oh, I can't see this, but I have a monitor over here. Okay, sharing. Okay, Heather, you see to do and following up
You're
with
good.
lead Bill Moran?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, bring up the slide. And I apologize. What am I showing first?
Oh,
What are
that
we?
firstly is marking it dead or reassigning it to another person.
Yes, thank you. So when you're looking at a lead, you have some options down here, and one of those is the status. And so if you click on that, you can change the status of that lead. You can see there's hot and incubating, new lead.
Can you
One
go
of
down
those,
and show me how many there are? Does it stop at new?
yeah, these are
Oh,
the
that's it.
the
Okay.
ones right here. Yeah.
Got it.
And those might get modified over time as we consult with agents and feel like there needs to be some different statuses in here that aren't currently. But you can see the dead lead is in here. And if you click on that and then just write a note as to why you think that's a dead lead. And so we'll see that on our end as well.
Here's some examples. They told me they're working with, they have a buyer's agency with someone else.
That is actually a good example. So they're technically an active lead, but not one that you are going to be working with. And so that's it. And then you hit save. So pretty simple.
Show them changing the owner.
Oh, yes, thank you. So there's the active status just to the right, you can see user and owner. So you can reassign this lead. It could be a team member that you're working with. It could be just discussions with agent concierge and management, and you're just like, I'm so busy right now. I think I don't want to receive leads anymore, and I'd love to assign this to somebody else. Whatever the case, that's how you do it. And you just click on the button right here, and it's going to populate all the different agents in the system. You can put a note in here. You can retain ownership, but assign the lead to a different agent, and then that way they're in.
Explain why you do that, Sean. Why would you, that would be like maybe Kathy Hall with you, Rebecca, or maybe Rebecca isn't on this call, but if you had a team where one person is sort of the buyer follow-upper person, you could keep the ownership with you and then assign it to the agent you're working with.
I think that's the best example.
Okay. Another reason you'd reroute it is it's not in your territory. That happens all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go all the way up to Silverton because I work in downtown Durango. So they call the Silverton agent and say, hey, this person wants a showing. I'm going to go ahead and reassign it.
Heather, since I'm already sharing my screen, I also want to do the demonstration for anybody that didn't attend the 10 a.m. Just really quick on the lead follow-up. So all leads that come into the system, from a distinctive perspective, you're only going to have 2 required follow-ups that you need to put into the system on day 3 and day 14. And we're just asking that you complete those follow-ups. So even if you use a different CRM or like Follow-Up Boss or Top Producer and you use that, and you just need to go into IQ Office and complete those 2 follow-ups. And so I'm going to do a quick demonstration. I'm using Lindsay again, as I did at the 10 a.m. training. And I've already talked to her about Bill Moran. So I'll click on this just to look at the lead really quick, and I can get some more information. I've got his email address. No telephone numbers in there yet, but down at the bottom right, I can view the detail of the lead and see the message that this is another direct contact and referral that Lindsay got because she's a rock star. And so it says, hi, Lindsay, was recommended to you by a friend of my son, Kyle, who lives in Durango. I'm looking to purchase a home in Durango for him and also as an investment for me. And then that's where he actually does provide his telephone number. Could we talk? Lindsay has talked with him, so this is a super active lead. And so what I can do in this little follow-up is I just click, and this is in the dashboard. Every time you log into IQ Office, all I need to do is click the little checkbox. And she's actually had phone call and email with Bill and said, have talked to him multiple times via phone and email. Active buyer for sure.
And then you could always write a note either here or in your follow-up that says, remember what you did last time was reminder. Yeah.
Remind me to thank the person who referred him. And that's cool too. And you can also, inside of the lead, you can go into the lead and schedule a follow-up just for yourself. If you want to make sure that you remind yourself to send a thank you card to whoever referred that person, or if you're reminding yourself because it's more of a warm lead, maybe 3 to 6 months out, you're going to want to set a follow-up so that the system will remind you to follow up with that person with some notes in there about what they're looking for, and so that you can remember.
So how do you do that?
All right, I'll go into Christine Brotzman, who we talked about at the first training. So this is just the most powerful place for everything that you can do. You can create your own action plans. An action plan is one of 3 things. And it basically happens in a series. It's like as soon as you activate an action plan, the clock starts ticking and then a series of things will happen. One is an automatically system generated email that you can compose. They also have templates in there. 2 is a marketing plan. You could automatically, as part of that action plan, add that lead to your happy holiday e-cards. And all you have to do is have that marketing plan in place, as well as just follow-ups. You can have an action plan that is all it is follow-ups. So like a buyer, you help them buy a house. You want to make sure that you call them a month later and say, hey, how are you liking your house so far? And then you call them a year later and say, happy house anniversary. Maybe get them a bottle of wine. That's the power of the CRM is gonna tell you how to. It's gonna ensure that you stay in touch with those people. And when I used to be a recruiter, I used CRM every day. I'd have anywhere from 80 to 150 follow-ups, and I would spend my first 2 to 3 hours of my day just making phone calls based on those follow-ups or shooting emails. And they were people I hadn't talked to in 3 or 4 months, and I'd be like, oh yeah. And that the CRM based on follow-ups would remind me to contact those people. So all you have to do is in the upper right-hand corner, just click on schedule a follow-up, give it a title. You could do 6-month follow-up, put some notes in there. Isn't ready to buy yet, but will be in 6 months. And then, looking for condo or something like that. And
ask him you could even say, ask him how his dog is. Like you heard that his dog was sick. Hey, is your dog okay? Like any of those little notes that make them feel like, wow, this person was really listening to me.
Yeah, and if you have a group coordinator, especially if you work with a team, you can assign that follow-up to that member of your team, which is cool. And then just hit save, and it's going to happen for you. It's going to show up in your to-dos on any given day based on when you have done that. Within that lead, you can also add them to a campaign that you've already created or any of the ones in IQ Office, whether it be quarterly or monthly newsletters, holiday e-cards. There's tons of templates in there. It's super cool. Speaking of notes, Lindsay has actually, when you do these follow-ups, it puts it in the notes. And so like when I was a recruiter, I would get on the phone with HR managers and I would write down things like, has 2 kids that are applying for college, Portland Trail Blazers fan, just all those types of things so that I remember those things, even though I haven't talked to that person in 6 months. Other notes would be more specific to what they're looking for. And, while you're on the phone with them, why not set them up if they're a buyer, set them up on the property watch while you're talking with them. And just, be like, hey, by the way, you're going to be receiving an auto generated email from me that will make sure that you're alerted on all the new listings coming into the MLS, because I want to make sure that you don't miss a listing as soon as it comes onto the market. And then they're going to be excited because they don't want to either, and especially in a hot market, in hot markets like we've seen recently. And so you can set them up in the portal. That's drip marketing right there. And it ensures that they're going to be getting the listings. And what's cool is when you set them up on the portal, you get to see all their searches that they do, and they can set up their own watches, and they can save listings and heart them. And it's all happening on your website, as well as you get to see everything they do on your website and stay in touch with them.
Okay. Should I go back to the presentation?
Yes.
So here, this is just repeating what we already said. Different reasons for marking a lead dead. Maybe someone says, please take me off your list. Something that says that there's actually a spam, which happens once in a while. Somebody has a window wiping business and they literally create a new lead for each agent to tell them about their window washing business. That a lead was already working with somebody else, or you want to assign it to someone else. Okay, so if you mark it dead, so what happens is it comes to whoever the lead management person's dashboard is for review. So just mark why it was marked dead so that we understand. And if it's blank, we're probably going to be calling you and just say, hey, why did you mark that dead? To make sure it's not, oh, I tried once and they didn't pick up. And then if you get a bogus lead, let us know. So we have Carrie on here. That's for the Durango office, but otherwise just let your AC or whoever your lead admin is know, and they can bump you to the top of the list. In Durango, I also know how to do this really quickly, so just call one of us. So example of a drip campaign. In Durango, we used to do so many, there's just so many passive registration leads. And I know Sean is rolling out, he's got, and Distinctive, they're going to be rolling out this very cool lead nurturing programs. But what we did here in Durango is I created 2 drip campaigns, and it is a series of emails that goes to someone for 6 months, that if it's a passive registration lead, it literally, you press a couple buttons and it drops that lead in to be nurtured for 6 months without you having to do very much. This is an example of what one was. So this would be a drip plan that was someone went to our website and you have no idea what they're looking for. It just said they were looking on our website. Maybe you saw a couple listings they were looking at, but it's very sweet. And it's just, hey, I don't want to bother you. And then a text, it gives you information about how to text the person if they gave you the phone number. Okay. So this goes on and on for 6 months. And then there's a couple of reminders of what you need to do personally. So that only happens maybe 3 times during that 6 months. If you want to learn about these drip plans, just let me know. And I personally will teach you and other people. I have one for warm leads, which are, or anything that comes in that you don't know what they're looking for. So it's a brand new lead, right? But the other one I have that I teach is for, we call it CPR. So which those leads, if you've been in the business for a long time and you go, I cannot remember how I met this person. Like I have no idea why they're in my database. I actually have a whole drip plan that lasts 6 months. And it goes from, hey, at one time you were interested in real estate in La Plata County. I'm just checking in to see if you're still interested. So someone could get this years after you've been in touch with them, and it helps you warm up to have a real relationship with them. So if you're interested, just see me. That's kind of what a drip plan is. I'm going to hand it over to you, Sean, for this one.
Yeah, long-term goals. We're obviously wanting to give you as many tools as possible to be successful, so that you don't have to invent the wheel. And so we're very much actively working to invent the wheel for you, so that you can utilize those. Certainly, if you have any suggestions at any time or something that you think would be a cool, let us know, so that we can get working on those things. But I am confident that you're going to see more action plans put into the system for direct marketing over time. And then, of course, we already have some prepackaged action and direct marketing plans in there. We certainly encourage you to use those. And of course, you can turn them off at any time just by going into the lead and removing that action plan. And no matter what, we're here to help because we're your #1 fan. And we want you to be successful. So please don't hesitate to reach out. If you have questions and concerns, we're happy to do independent trainings as well when needed, especially if you're a new agent and trying to figure everything out.
Oh, I just wanted to notice, or you to know, that across Distinctive, this is going to happen. I know some offices did seller leads. We did them in Durango Bank of Silverton. They're being discontinued by Coldwell Banker. I was ready to ramp them back up because I felt like I had my head around how they were doing. Just know that that's happening right now. And you're going to hear about it more in the office meeting. You good, Sean?
Great.